So we'll get started with the prayer and just go from there. Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day and the people that have come to class, and for the ones that will listen after to the Zooms on YouTube. And Father, we ask that you send out healing for everybody, and we ask that you bind up the spirit of hatred off of humanity and loose love and understanding and peace. For there's so much confusion and opposition against all of us at this time. Please help us to receive the messages that you're trying to bring forth through all of the people that are talking and teaching, because each one of us reflects part of the lessons that we're to learn. And we appreciate that knowledge and understanding of this. Thank you for this beautiful day and the sun and the sunshine that will make things grow. We're at the beginning of spring and we're ready to move forward in our new creation of ourselves and the things that we're going to bring forth in the harvest. And we thank you for this.
All right, I'll play the song.
May I have your attention? There's some things I'd like to mention to all my people on the planet who's in a weak position. It's only temporary. I know it can be scary, but the sun didn't go away. It's just preparing for a new day.
Everything will be alright. It's a new day. Don't you give up the fight, 'cause it's a new day. All you have to do is try. It's a new day. Keep your head to the sky, 'cause it's a new day.
What is it that we're doing? Who is it that we're fooling? Think of the life that you're choosing. Now let go of your illusions. Be honest with yourself. This will enhance your mental health. Now let's all take a breath and use the wisdom we have left. Do we really have to kill? Do we really have to steal? Do we really have to lie? Do mothers really have to cry? Or can we make a better choice? Do you hear that inner voice? If you can, it just might say, prepare yourself for a new day.
Everything will be alright. It's a new day. Don't you give up the fight, 'cause it's a new day. All you have to do is try. It's a new day. Keep your head to the sky, 'cause it's a new day.
If you want to move higher, you must control your desires and strive for what you need, 'cause your wants can breed greed. This is for the youth. They deserve to know the truth, not the lies we were taught, not the stories that we bought. The future's in their hands. We must make them understand. They must share the same plate. They must learn from our mistakes. No one survives alone, although they say to each his own. Then what direction do we take? This is why we need a new day.
Everything will be alright. It's a new day. Don't you give up the fight, 'cause it's a new day. All you have to do is try. It's a new day. Keep your head to the sky, 'cause it's a new day.
Just know that we are one. Let's stop pretending that we're dumb Have the guts to do what's right. Have the guts to change your life. Although the road will be rough, you can't afford to just give up. Make time to focus on your spirit. If you feel me, let me hear it.
Everything will be alright. It's a new day. Don't you give up the fight, 'cause it's a new day. All you have to do is try. It's a new day. Keep your head to the sky, 'cause it's a new day. Everything will be alright. It's a new day. Don't you give up the fight, 'cause it's a new day. All you have to do is try. It's a new day. Keep your head to the sky, 'cause it's a new day. Everything will be alright. It's a new day. Don't you give up the fight, 'cause it's a new day. All you have to do is try. It's a new day. Keep your head to the sky, 'cause it's a new day.
I'll hear a show and
All right, I hope y'all really like that song. That is from Big Vi. I know him personally, and hopefully we'll have him on the show one day. He's been very busy. I've been trying for a couple of months to get him to come and speak to us. He has a big movement that he does. He's gathering all the children together, and you know, he has a message to bring to the people too, and it's about unity and love, and he made a great guest here, so hopefully one day we will have him on here. But I thought today would be a good day to show one of his songs. You can look him up. He has other songs on YouTube that you might like. He's a very awesome person. And maybe one day we'll all get together and be in a gathering where he's at teaching, because he is a great teacher. He has great knowledge of many things. Okay, so back to today's lesson. Last week we talked about frenemies. You know, we learned some new tools to put in our toolbox so that we can have the knowledge to if you choose to use those tools, you know, to prepare yourself when you're out and about in the communities, what to watch out for so that it doesn't cause you ripple effects in your life, in your journey that you're on, only if you choose it, right? Okay, and this is what we're learning. This is the main key of all the classes. You are the one that has the power to make whatever happens in your life. We're learning that everything that happens to us is really from our own doing, okay? The lessons that come in that hit us, okay, depending on how you choose to look at it, you'll keep going around in that pattern until you realize the way you stop that pattern is to look in yourself and see what part you played in it. Because we all play a part in it. And it's the way you choose to, you know, assert your choice when that rises up in your pathway, depending on the choice that you choose on how to handle it is many waves of emotions or whatever you will go through to clear it. You know, and eventually you won't have to clear it because you will recognize it and you won't even allow it to come through your energy field, or it will come through your energy field and you'll be able to release it immediately without it affecting you. These are the lessons that we're learning. about ourselves, and they're very wonderful. So today we're going to talk about, did y'all look at the lesson last week, and when I asked y'all to write down and start writing down for yourselves what distracts you, what really truly distracts you? And if you did that, did you find out there's a lot of stuff that distracts you? I see, Pam, I see it on your face. But before the class is over, we'll talk about these distractions, because look, they can come up in all different ways every minute of your day. If you start writing these distractions down and can pull them out where you can see them, you will start recognizing them, that it's a distraction, and be able to bring yourself back into a better balance within yourself on how you react to it, because that's the key. How are you going to react to it, this distraction? And before you know it, you're going to be in such a strong balance, because that's your power. That's you centering in your power of understanding, and it's a very powerful place. But you have to start out by understanding what is distracting you. Where are you placing your attention? Where's your attention going? So please start paying attention to what distracts you, and start bringing your power back, because when you bring your power back, boy, you're going to be standing tall. It doesn't mean that you won't get knocked down or anything like that, because look, energy always moves, energy is always changing. So we will always be going. Energy moves. And me and Leah was just talking about that before we started class. Nothing stays the same. So if you were expecting your day to be like it was yesterday, then you're not allowing creation energy to move through you. And that's where we get stuck, because we have this perception, that it has to be this way, it has to be that way. Well, it doesn't. We have to learn how to move with the energy, because we are energy beings. That's the most important thing to understand. And if you become stagnant because you're stopping, then you're going to have the lessons that come with it. And let me tell you, lessons can come in every form, shape, size. To little bumps, to tsunamis. I prefer to have the little bumps. I don't want no more tsunamis. You get the tsunamis when you're hard-headed and you don't want to, you don't want to hear spirit, and you don't want to, do it that way because you're hard-headed. You think there's a better way to do it. And so you get the big tsunamis, and then you go, why did that happen to me? And then to really get that answer of why it happened to you, you must first ask yourself and go into yourself and say, what part did I play in that? And when you do, you're going to get your answer, because it's not about what's out here. It's about what's in you. What are you doing? What did you play? What part did you play? So we're going to talk about roots. Remember, we've talked this whole time since the class has started on Zoom about the vines of emotions, that lay within your mental self and your emotional self. Okay, we're going to talk about some of the main character roots that are in each one of us, because I've told y'all, follow the vines down to the root, because you got to pull the root out. Because if you don't, that root's going to continue to grow within you. So today we're going to talk about some of the major roots that need to be taken to the trash can. Pull them up, weed that garden, get them out of there, take it to the trash. So, when you pull these roots up too, you're going to take the whole vine. And that's what's great, because you won't have to go through one emotion or two emotion to see where it goes, because you're getting right down to the root, and there could be 100 little emotions attached to that root. Okay, and you don't have to go through each and every single one if you can find the root and pull it out. It's a lot easier. So just remember, pull it out, take it to the trash. But energy is energy, right? So also remember, I've taught this in other lessons too. When you remove energy, you cannot leave that empty. You've got to replace it with some type of energy. Now, if you do not, guess what has happened? You don't sweep your whole house clean. You got all the old nasty stuff and goofy stuff out, and you swept the floor, you cleaned the walls, everything's nice and shiny, but you didn't put nothing back in it. So guess what happens? That stuff will come back in 3 times worse than it did before because you didn't put nothing back in that space. That space has to be filled with something. That's the balance. So when you pull out a root, you need to plant a tree. Plant a tree of that knowledge that you're learning. And I'm going to try to show y'all today how to do some of that. But I always remember when you're working with energy, if you remove energy, please replace it with a light of God or with something good and positive. Because if not, if you leave it blank, you're going to cause yourself some really hard lessons to come to you that you're going to have to go back and repeat because you missed that one little important step there. So we're going to talk about one of the main roots that we all have, and this is like the number one main root, and it is fear. Okay, fear is huge, and if you look at fear, you know, in your quiet time, you'll be able to see how many leaves on that vine of fear, which represents an emotion, that you can have on that one root right there. It could be thousands, you know, just depending on the type of traumas or anything that has happened in your life. Okay. And I'm going to show you how the fear came into your life, because it came into us when we were kids. See, like I told you, a lot of this started when we were children. And that's okay. We're not putting blame on our parents or anything. They didn't know no better either. But because we're bringing in the knowledge now, it needs to be taught to the children at a younger age so they do not have to go through this of pulling out these roots and stuff. It won't be there because we'll be planting the right things, the right foundation for them to be strong. The second one is expectations. Okay. I've always said, for me, this was my thing on expectations. Expectations is the downfall of the human race. And the reason why I say that is because when you have an expectation, guess what it brings to you? You have to have those 3 threes, right? Thought, action, and reaction. So if you have an expectation, it's going to create a judgment. And with that judgment is going to be what you get in return. So you take expectations out and you let it play out the way Spirit's bringing you without having an expectation. Oh, I should do this. Oh, I should do that. You should allow it to unfold the way it was sent to you, and then make your decision on how you're going to handle it. Okay. The third one, we kind of went into this. Judgment is the third one. Because we do judge, even though we don't realize we're judging things. In a human body, you're going to judge because if you don't feel like it's the right thing, before you even think about what's really going on, you've already created a judgment in your head because that's been brainwashed into us. That there's right and wrong. You know, in life. And if there's right and wrong, then there's a judgment. There's nothing equal. Okay. The fourth one is a very big root. Pain. Pain and suffering. You know, how many of y'all have had pain in your life? Yeah, don't have to raise your hands because each one of us has. But this is a main root because if you're not getting pulled in by fear, by expectations, by judgment, guess what? It's going to come through pain. And then you're going to be miserable because when you're in pain, you can't think straight. That really messes up your head because you're in so much pain. All you're doing is focusing on hurting. And that's very hard to get out of. That is such a hard energy to break through. Okay, so these are the 4 roots we're going to start practicing on pulling out. Okay, and I'm going to tell you which energy to replant when you pull that out. For fear, okay, the plant that you're going to replant in your is knowledge and understanding. And mostly the knowledge and understanding of why you're pulling out that root of fear. And this knowledge and understanding is going to become your foundation post in your foundation so that your foundation will stand tall and strong because you'll have that knowledge and understanding. Okay, for expectations, it's the truth. Always set the truth there. This is why I did this because this is my truth that I stand on. It doesn't have to be anybody else's truth. You know, it has to do with how you feel about yourself because like I have told a lot of people, neither one of us walk the same path. Are we on the path together? Yes. Are we walking in the same direction? Yes. But each one of our paths are going to be different. So you're going to have, I'm going to stop saying you got to have, yeah, but you need to look at your tools and pull out which one will help you the best during the situations because each one of our paths are different. Like I said, each one of us brings a different thing to the circle. We're very special. And when you realize you're special, you know, nobody can take that away because you're bringing stuff to the table just like everybody else. Okay. For judgment, you want to plant forgiveness. Okay. And this is not, we're going to talk about forgiveness later down the road in this class today. Forgiveness is not about forgiving a person on what they do. It's about forgiving yourself. This has to do with yourself, not nobody else, on how you felt about it, how you reacted to it, how things responded in your body to it. Okay, that type of forgiveness, you're going to plant that in there because that's your truth. That forgiveness comes with your truth, your understanding and your knowledge of what you're doing, you know, for yourself. And you're setting up a great foundation that's going to be really strong for you to stand upon. Okay, for pain, you're going to put in your self-love. You're going to plant that self-love and you're going to say it with gratitude. I'm okay. I love myself. I'm fine. You know, these are the pillars that you're putting into your self-esteem, where your self-esteem lies in your body, really, to make a great foundation to stand upon. And once you do this, nobody can take that away from you anymore. And really, nobody really took it away from you. It was just not created and built properly for you to stand upon it. And then when people did stuff to you, or the energy waves hit you, what little bit you did have there got taken away and you got knocked down, and it was to hold you in suppression, you know, because you didn't have the knowledge and the understanding. So fear is the main root. And like I said, it has many emotional leaves attached to it, to the vine. And it would take you years probably at our age to go through each little leaf that's on that vine to get to the root. So that's why, Spirit asked me to just go straight to the root and talk about it, because it could take you eons just to find out, oh, it was fear. Fear was the root. But pull that fear up. I want you to look at all your fears. I mean, this journaling right now is very important for all of this, to journal for yourself and take time. Write down, what am I scared of? What puts fear in me? And when you write it down, remember the 3 threes. You have a thought. The action is to write it down, because when you write it down, it's going to bring it into your awareness, into your consciousness state, so that you can see it. And that's when you're able to fix it, because you can come out with a different reaction. So it's very important to journal all this, and look at yourself. And you're going to find there's a lot of things you're afraid of. And you're going to, when you really start, you're going to find things that you didn't realize you were afraid of. But it's on that little vine or that big vine, depending on how big your fear is. But fear really stops you from being your true, authentic self. And so pay attention to those emotions. And pay attention to the ones that are distracting you, because that's the game. They distract you so that you cannot, go back and flip that switch that we were talking about last week to a positive affirmation for yourself, with the understanding of why you're flipping your switch back the opposite way. Okay. It brings in the balance. This stuff never goes away. Okay. But when you pull the root out, you'll be able to see the fear trying to come in and replant itself before it gets planted. Okay. And you just have to go, you're not coming in my garden, but always remember it's going to be there, because it's an energy. Forgive yourself. That's the biggest thing, forgiveness. It's not about forgiving anybody else. Don't forgive your mother for beating you. Don't forgive your mother, for those. I mean, forgive her, but don't blame her for the reason why this is how it turned out for me, because you did this to me. Because see, blame is another form of judgment, right? That's a root. So stop blaming everybody and look at the part that you played in it, because that's the key to fixing it. What part did I play in it? And let me tell you, this is the hardest thing you will probably ever do in your whole life for yourself, is to look at these things, because they can bring up some very harsh, emotional, stuck energy in you. And if you're not ready to deal with it, guess what? You're going to push it on that corner shelf up there in your mind and go, I'll deal with you later. Well, guess what? If you continue to do that, it's going to continue, that cycle is going to continue to turn until you clear that shelf off and you replant a good plant there to feel that energy. I tell you, we were brainwashed when we were kids, and it's going to take a lot of personal journeying and looking at your shadow self and figuring out what is good for your own self, not nobody else. What's good for you to redo this brainwashing. Because look, when we were kids, each and every single one of us was fearless. I want y'all to really think about this. We were fearless. We would jump off of things. We would play. We would run. We would shout. We'd be singing and just having a grand old time. We never thought about fear. Oh, that will hurt us. We don't need to do that. We never thought about none of that. But what happened is we started hearing the word no. Okay? We started hearing the word no. And that word got drilled into us so much at a young age, okay, that it actually took a part of our self-worth away. Okay, it really did. Because what it did to us is it set up these emotions that got attached to your feelings, your emotions that were coming up as a kid to this one word no. And guess what it did? It created an invisible jail that all of us got to sit in for a long, long time. No, you can't do that. That's gonna hurt you. No, you can't do that because they're gonna make fun of you. No, you can't do that. I want you to really look at all those no's that were told to you at a young age. And this took your freedom away. It really did. It took you from exploring so that you could make your own decisions and stuff. I'm not saying parents can't direct their children, but it needs to be done in a more positive, way to do it. And tell them both sides, not just no. If you get to see both sides of it, you can make a better decision on how you want to respond to it. But because we were told no, no, no so many times, guess what it created in us? And this came on the fear line, okay, of this root rebellion. We started rebelling. And as teenagers, guess what? We rebelled. We're not going to listen to our parents. We'll sneak out at night. We'll go drinking. We're going to do what they say. And the minute they tell us no, guess what? We're going to do just the opposite. Where do you think that came from? And it grew on the fear line because you started rebelling because you were getting old enough where you wanted to stand in your own truth. Okay. Your body was responding. You think about it, your body was responding to it. That it wasn't the proper decision, but you were being forced to go that way when your spirit was trying to lead you in a different direction. So, think about that when you're doing your journaling. Because it put us in an invisible jail, okay? And we stayed in that invisible jail for a long time until you started learning, to remove those invisible bars and open the door and get out. Your freedom does come when you remove the fear, okay? If you remove the fear, it's going to remove those invisible bars away from you, from the jail cell. Because see, I don't know, with you right now on my pain vine, because I'm learning to pull this out too at the same time y'all are. Okay. Sadness comes up. That's one of the leaves, and you're gonna find anger on that too. And anger can be a really big leaf on that. Because when you come to the sadness part, you go, why did they do that to me? Why? That's the blaming and the judgment, right? It's all connected. So when you remove this fear, you're going to remove all of that. You're really going to remove it. And it started, like I said, it started with us being told no. And I don't know if you can remember how old you were when you heard your first no. Don't do that. Or you got whipped and had to stand in the corner because your parents didn't want you to do that and you weren't listening. Because you were free, that was your spirit, and your spirit got beat down, and your self-worth got beaten down, and they weren't doing it to harm you, but that was just the way they were taught to do it. But there's a better way to do it. So you're going to learn how to step into the trust and start loving yourself, which is what we've been doing with all these lessons that we've had. You're going to remove the fear. You're going to remove the judgment. You're going to remove your expectations, and you're going to remove the pain. Sometimes you cannot remove the pain. You're going to have to address your pain in a different way. And that is hitting it head on when you're in pain, and you're going to have to feel it and go through that emotion of it. But once it releases off of you because of the knowledge that you have received of where the pain came from, you will rise above that and it will never hit you again. Right? Because you've learned where it came from. And so you've done stuff, to fill in that energy after you removed it and let it pass through. And that's very, very important. Because guess what? Guess what the greatest gift is that you can get from doing this for yourself? That's good. Colleen says freedom. And yes, you get freedom, forgiveness. The greatest gift that you're going to give yourself going through this class and everything is forgiveness, which is going to bring you to freedom. Because when you can forgive yourself for the way you felt towards others, towards the things that took place for you, to you, and done to you by others, and what you did to yourself, because guess what? We're our worst enemies. Until you learn that your shadow self is your best friend, you're going to have a lot of trouble. And that goes to being frenemies, okay? Now, I want you to think about that lesson. Your shadow self was your frenemy until you made it your friend. Because it was taught to be your enemy. It was taught you to bring all these lessons to you. So it's quite interesting because, like I said, when you start really learning and seeing the concept of it and understanding it, you're going to find that the greatest gift that you have received is the forgiveness of it. The forgiveness and the learning, the knowledge, all of that to put in your toolbox so that you can stand up and be strong in yourself. It's pretty amazing journey that we're on. And some of us really suffer. And but once you get through the suffering part, because you receive the knowledge, you look back on it and go, I wouldn't change that for a bit because I learned so much from going through it. Well, that's why you had to go through it, is pick up those tools so that you could, So don't let pain that is out of your hands turn your negative emotional side on, okay? Your switch. Don't let it turn that. There's a lot of things that can take you to your knees, okay? And threaten your heart. Many, many things. And you have to be strong enough to recognize it. Remember, wherever you place your attention is where you place your energy. That's very important. Because wherever you place your attention, there's where your energy is. So don't let pain define you, okay? Because pain has a voice too inside your head. And it will talk to you. Realize that pain is a distraction. It distracts you from being your true, authentic self. Because it makes you think you're sick. Something's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're going through an emotion. You're going through some things to straighten yourself up. Nobody can do it for you, not even your own doctor. You have to decide, I'm not going to let this bother me anymore. And you're going to find the solution for it. Okay, so your pain does not define you. It's a distraction because you're going to realize you're going to rise above that pain, and you're going to realize that that wasn't you to begin with. You were behind all that. Okay, there was a true, authentic self behind all that pain. So let it hurt, because you will have to let that emotion come through you. It's already got into your emotional body and into the body itself. So you're going to have to ride the waves out and let it come out of you. And then you can heal it. You can look at it and release it, let it go, forgive yourself, You know, that's the biggest thing, forgiving yourself. And don't linger there in that present moment with your thoughts. Because remember, wherever you place your attention, that's where your energy goes. And pain is very hard because when you're in pain, you can't think hardly about anything else at that moment except for where the pain's coming from, right? And sometimes it can be deathly painful, you know, to the point where you can't sleep, you can't function. And if you can rise above that distraction, you will find your true authentic self and you will find your freedom. Staying in the moment is one of the biggest things you can do when you're in pain. And it's very, very hard. It's probably the hardest thing you'll ever have to do in your life when you're conquering this little booger right here in fear. Those are the hardest things in your life you'll ever have to accomplish, because they've been there for a long time. But you can heal it. But it's like staying in the moment by moment, minute by minute, and not being distracted. And every time it distracts you, you have to switch that switch back on to a different thing so that you can move through it. And it's very hard. You will be really working on yourself when you go through this. If you can't change that energy, because sometimes you can't change it, you have to let it go through you, especially pain. Okay? But you can heal it. And the way you can heal it is by knowing through your own choice on how the effect of it's going to make you feel. Okay? And that's the hard thing to wrap around your head. But because when you're in pain, you're hurting. But to heal it and ride through it, you and only you have the choice of how it's going to really make you feel. Okay? And you have to stand in that moment of gratitude, higher vibration, that, hey, I'm strong enough to get through this. But guess what? It is the hardest thing you will ever do. I'm not joking you. It will be the hardest thing that you will ever do in your life. But once you do it, guess what happens? The pain isn't there anymore. And guess what? The pain doesn't come back for that chosen emotion that it was stuck to, because it gets stuck to emotion too, and it rears its head when that emotion gets triggered in you. Excuse me for just a minute, y'all. Another thing that's very important is you are never how somebody other than yourself makes you feel. That's very important to realize. You're never how somebody else makes you feel. Okay. These are your emotions. Your emotions. Nobody has control of your emotions except for yourself. Okay, so when you pay attention to your emotions, you will realize that you're the only one that can choose to get angry. You're the only one that can choose to cuss them out. That's your choice. And that's that switch. Okay, so paying attention to you, to all of this, and what distracts you is going to heal you. You know, but it's your choice. It's really your choice if you want to heal or if you want to stay in that cycle pattern of going around and around and around dealing with these emotions. Now, I'm not saying these emotions will go away, because they won't. These are everyday emotions that you will have to tend to every day, of people, how people feel about you. and all of that. But when you get into your authentic self, you will realize, you know, you will send out loving and kindness to those people because you were once in that place too, where they were at. And you know how you got out of it, you know, and all you can do is pray for those people and maybe help guide them if they come and ask you for help, you know, because you should never try to push what you know onto somebody else. You know, if you do that, they weren't ready to hear the message to begin with. The ones that listen are the ones that are needing the lesson or the understanding at that time are the ones that will be talking to you. And you'll realize that once you start clearing all this stuff off of you. And you won't have to say, do I need to help this person? Because you will know Spirit put this person in your path so that you could help them. Or they could help you because guess what? They're a part of the puzzle too. So you have to look at both sides. There's two sides. Well, there's lots of sides to it, you know? And when you can see those sides, you'll be able to balance yourself and come into your true self so much better. And people will ask you how you do it, and you'll just have to tell them I've worked on myself a lot because it takes learning yourself, you know, to get there. Because we're all spirit, right? We're all energy. And we're in a circle, right? And everything in that circle is in a perimeter, you know, so can you get out of that circle? No. So what does that mean? We're all family. We all have the same emotions. We all dealing with the same stuff. Yeah, there's a connection there. Do you see it? Yeah. So why can't all of us connect and really truly love one another? Well, you can only do that when we truly love yourself and understand how we got to the situation that we're in right now in the world. So we should lift up one another. We should lift up one another every time we see each other, you know, and cheer for each other for what we've accomplished. Because let me tell you, it's hard to live in this world. This is the school of hard knocks. I've always said it's the biggest school we'll ever be in our life. It's probably we're going probably for our master's degree for all we know, because it's pretty darn hard, you know. But we should cheer everybody for their accomplishments because we all need to hear that, you know. Don't try to outshine someone else. I heard this and I thought this was so wonderful and it's so true. You know, don't try to outshine someone else. How many people know other people like that? You know, and it's sad because if we all join together, oh, it could be so much greater than what it is. So don't try to outshine someone else because the heavens would be awfully dark with only one star. And I want you to think about that. The heavens would be awfully dark with just one star up there shining. So recognizing that we are not on earth to see how important we can become, but to see how much difference we can make in the lives of others and ourselves. That's the key. Okay? Everyone makes mistakes. And guess what? All mistakes can be forgiven. Every single mistake, down to somebody killing somebody, that can be forgiven. And a lot of people would say no about that. But I want you to think about this. What is the word no mean? And what does it bring with it? Judgment. Okay. So that's the switch. Bring yourself back into balance. Because we've been so unbalanced for many eons. And we're learning that we don't have to be unbalanced anymore. So realize everybody makes mistakes and all mistakes can be forgiven. When you feel powerless, that's because you stop listening to your heart. Okay? Because that's where your power comes from. And remember when I told you last week, your gut feeling? Why aren't you listening to your gut feeling? Well, there you have it. There's your power, you know. And if you're not listening to it, then you're giving your power away. You know, you're telling your own self, I'm not worthy enough to receive this, what my body is telling me. I can't trust what my body is telling me. That right there shows that you need to work on yourself, you know. Because if you have fear and you can't trust the own way you're feeling, something's wrong. You need to look at that. Something's wrong. Because only you can walk your path. Only. You can have people walk with you, like I said, on the path going in the same direction. But your path is your path, my path is my path, and each one of us brings something different to the circle. Some will have the gift of gathering many people together, okay? Some will have the gift of being able to talk to get all those people to understand they have to connect. Some connect the spiritual earth, air, water, and fire together. Okay? There's all these specialties that we have that when we come together and know why we're all together and what part we're playing in, it's going to create the healing of the sacred hoop. That's the journey that we're on, is becoming like-minded and loving one another unselfishly and accepting the gifts that they have and understanding it's okay to be different because we're not supposed to be the same. We're all different. We're all on the same path trying to get somewhere, but we all bring something different to the table, and that's okay, right? That's what love's all about, unconditional love, understanding, you know. So if you've ever come up against obstacles where you just got mad at somebody, the forgiveness, use that forgiveness, because guess what? It's not about that other person. It's about forgiving yourself for feeling like that towards that other person. Okay? Because you can say, hey, I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you. But that pattern is going to repeat until you forgive yourself for playing the part that you played, you know, and not truly loving and understanding that we all have a job here. We all have a space to go to, you know, a direction to go to, and that's okay. We're all in the lessons at different times, and that's okay too. You know, the only thing that you should be worried about is yourself, and are you making an impact on what you're bringing from Creator into the world? And to be able to do that, you must first heal yourself. You know, look in yourself, understand. And the biggest thing is forgiving yourself, because you had to go through all the stuff that was implanted in you and brainwashed into you to be the person you are today. And that's okay. Forgiveness is a big key. It's a huge key. It's your key to freedom. Because if you can forgive another person that has just hurt you so bad, I want you to really think about this. How did that person hurt you so bad when you are the one that has control over your emotions? You're the one that chooses to feel that way. That person didn't make you feel that way. You chose to feel that way. So who do you have to forgive? You should forgive both the people, yourself, your egoic self, you know, and that person. It's going to free you. It's going to take you out of that invisible jail, and it's very powerful, very powerful. When you come to this understanding and this point in your life of that understanding, you will realize that you have no need to impress anybody. You don't have to impress anybody. All you have to do is stand in your truth and in the knowledge that you carry within you. And when you do that, that's when your freedom begins. And that's where I'm leaving the lesson, because, you know, freedom comes from within you when you forgive yourself and forgive the others, because they didn't know what they were doing. They were part of the lesson. You know, if we didn't live in this big world of so much going on that distracts us, we'd have probably come to this being free and out of this cell a lot quicker than we're achieving it, you know, because it's not about everybody else, it's about your own self. And each one of us has to choose it. Okay. And some of y'all that are listening to the program might not like what I'm saying, and that's okay. You know, but look at, are you creating a judgment within yourself? Look at it really closely, because if you really want to work on yourself, you take out judgment, you take out expectations, and you take out all the other stuff that creates those stumbling blocks in you. And then you ask for forgiveness. And then you begin your freedom. And you start doing the true things that Creator wants you to do and be in your authentic self. And that's unconditional love and understanding, because you definitely have to have understanding to get through it. And I love each and every one of you, and I hope you have liked this lesson. And if you'd like to, we'll go into some questions. Leo has something to say. You don't have to. They can hear you, Leo.
Oh, okay, great.
Y'all can hear Leo, right?
All right. Yes, just one thing that Charlie, let me know if you disagree, but, okay, so in a parent-to-child relationship, if you use the word no, that kind of puts him in a prison. And the alternative is to say, give them a choice. For example, don't put your hand on that burner. It's going to hurt you really bad if you do that, as opposed to saying no. And so, you know, then they have a choice and they're thinking for themselves, which I think is important. But that's just a relationship, and the same thing can carry through to a couple. So if one spouse says to the other no on something, rather than say, well, that's fine, you want to do that, but this is what's probably going to happen. That's a much better way of approaching it. So it's all relationships. It all carries through.
I hope y'all heard all of that, because let me tell you, that is right. And if you can remember in the past lessons, we talked about relationships. Okay. And that is one of the main key things we're learning here, where we're at in this universe, is about relationships. And I believe I said on that class that you cannot have a relationship with anybody else that is really an authentic relationship until you have a true relationship with yourself and understand how you work. But that is correct. You have to show the balance in everything. If we were given the opportunity to see both sides of the coin as a young child, instead of just getting no, we would have, it would have built us to make better choices in our lives and all of that, but life is fast and life brings distractions when you're a parent, especially if you have 3 or 4 kids running around and you're a single parent. Uh, you know, and that's where distractions come in, and the big key is what is distracting you? Because if you can take the distraction out, you'll be able to focus on presenting both sides, because there is both sides to the matter. That even with this forgiveness, like I was talking about, there's both sides. You forgive the person, but do not forget to forgive yourself, because you did play a part in it. So that was very good. Thank you, Leo. So does anybody else? Okay, Elizabeth.
I always have questions.
And okay.
Would you go back to that point you were just talking about, though, about looking at both sides? Does that mean we have to look, we're supposed to look at what the other person that has done things to you too, at what they're going through or went through? What both sides? If you look at the other person to forgive that other person and then forgive yourself as well, I think is that what holds us back sometimes?
Well, yes, I believe for my own self that that's what holds us back,
Because you don't really want to forgive them,
that's
right?
So you're holding a judgment, okay, judgment instead of forgiveness. And where does judgment? That's one of the root causes, right? That brings
Right.
Because you don't want to forgive them because they hurt you so bad.
They hurt you so bad. You're right.
Okay. But when you really truly start writing down what distracts you, how does pain affect you in your distractions, because you'll get into all of that in your journaling, you're going to realize that it wasn't the other person. Did they throw this energy at you? Did they cause this to happen by saying something to you? Well, yes, they did. But you had the right to choose a better way of dealing with it.
Maybe like when you're a child, though, you don't.
No.
You don't.
And see,
that's where I'm going with this.
Okay. And see, that's
a choice.
Yes, that's where we as the elders now, okay, should help teach the younger generation to show kind of what, like Leo said, instead of just saying no to the child, show them both sides of it so they can make the choice. If you stick your hand on that oven, you're going to burn. And if they choose to do that and burn their hand, they chose that. But then you can come back and say, if you would not have chose that, your hand would have not got burnt.
Yeah, I get that. But what about the abuse that kids go through?
We're not going to be able to stop any of that abuse, because, that's a pattern and a cycle that has been created for a long period of time. But through the acknowledgement of what we are learning right now, we will be able at some point in time to step in and save some of those children. I mean, a lot of people do right now. Like, that's why they created the Department of Families and Children and all of that to help the kids that were being abused. But guess what? Until you truly heal yourself and understand where, all these pain, judgment takes you in society, it's going to continue that same pattern. And so the Department of Families and Children and all these other ones, kids suffer even more when they get taken away from their family and be put in those places. And it's due to the fact that these communities are not healed yet. Okay, and that's what's coming, is new communities that have people that have healed and worked on themselves that will bring this about. We might not see it in our time, but it is coming. Does that make any sense? Because there's really no way to stop the abuse. If another person is abusing somebody, let's just say it's over there in 2 or 3 states from where you're at, you're not going to be able to prevent that from happening to that child.
But I mean, in yourself, if you're, I get that we can teach others, how to face that and how to forgive. But when it comes down to looking at both sides of what may have happened to you as a child, as yourself, it's hard to come to that forgiving place.
That's true.
And so you have to walk through that pain the rest of your life till you figure out that you have to forgive them to get through the pain.
Well,
Correct?
it really depends on how the person processed it in their mental self. Now, as for me, I will tell you, I didn't have a good life growing up. I did not. And I was abused really, really bad. And through that, I have had to go through different cycle patterns of the pain, of the suffering, all of that, to break out of this cell that I was in.
Right.
But remember, everybody's different. So I don't know, only but for myself, that yes, I had to go through that. There might be another way that somebody else could go through it in a different way, but you will have to acknowledge your emotions to get through it. And there will have to be forgiveness. And look, I did not want to forgive my mama for eons. She left me, and all my brothers and sisters got to live with her and grow up with her and do a lot of stuff with her. And I held on to that for many, 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 many moons. And but when I did come to terms with forgiving her for that, is I accepted, the biggest key is I accepted that that's how she was, and I could not change that. And the only thing that I could change was how I felt about it. And that
Okay.
that came from within me, because
That brings it home. Yeah.
you can't
Okay.
change that person. And when I accepted that within myself, okay, that's how she was, and that I was okay with that and took out that judgment, then I was able to forgive her and forgive myself for feeling that way. And let me tell you, I told you, this is the hardest thing that you will ever have to experience in your life, is going through all these hard emotions, because that's what made you. That's what you went through. And it cut like a knife, because what did they say? Words are two-edged sword. And guess what? Whichever way you pull that sword, it's going to cut you, whether you pull it back in truth or you pull it back with a lie. It's going to cut you, because the truth hurts just as much as the lie hurts. But the accepting it, in your own self, in your own truth, what is good for you, not nobody else, is what's going to bring you through to that forgiveness. So I hope that helped you.
That helped. Yeah. Thank you.
I have something that I'd like to say. You touched on a lot of good points. I think the part that we're in the circle, like quantum mechanics and quantum physics, we're all one. Like if you take an object 1,000 miles away and cut it in half, it's going to react the same way, because we're connected. So the distractions is creating the fear, and it's kind of manifesting it. It's making a snowball effect where it's creating more fear. and more fear is manifesting more distractions. So I liked what you said about the, don't be the only star that shines, or heaven would be awfully dark.
Mhm.
Regardless of, we've talked about things, some of the things that bother me. These are distractions, right? And I'm placing a judgment and not allowing that freedom of expression, even if it may be deemed right or wrong. And by placing that judgment, I'm distracting and living from a place of fear, which in turn manifests more, right? So to step away from it all, we need to step away from that. Like Eckhart Tolle teaches about the pain body, and it wants to be fed, and it doesn't care what really kind of food it gets, as long as you feed it, right? And it's the two wolves again. So, I mean, it helped me, like there's situations I'm going through that, are like, and I think also it's the ego wanting things to unfold a certain way and not surrendering to creator and letting things unfold organically. So it's a really good lesson. I got 2 full pages of notes, and love you, Shaowen, and thank you.
Yeah, but you did make a good point that something that I had left out of the lesson, and that is surrendering, because you do have to surrender when you're looking at yourself. You have to, you have to surrender and come to acceptance, kind of like what I was telling Elizabeth on her question of the things of how you reacted to it. We're only human. We're all human. And guess what? Back in my thing, I said we all make mistakes. So guess what? All mistakes can be forgiven.
Thank
So,
you.
You're welcome. Thank you. That was really good, Robert. Pam, you had your hand up. Rodney, you got a, there you go.
Yeah, I need. I've been reading a book about the Toltec teachings, and they talk about redoing your whole thought process over something. It's the same kind of thing where you need to go back and you need to look at all the leaves, all the effect that one specific thought about yourself has created this monster branch. And I'm finding lately that like when we were at the last time we were here, I put over this that I have no value. I have no value. There's nothing that I do. There's nothing that I can do that ever will be accepted or wanted. Well, it really doesn't matter. I mean, it's just that I have to have some kind of fit in this life, I have to belong here someplace, and but that I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that because I'm not that good of a person is stopping me from doing it. you know and I had to start saying, in the book that is a start implementing in there, whenever that thought comes up, I can't do that. I'm just not worthy of that or nothing, instead of saying, well, I'm worthy, just like you said, I'm worthy of all things. And, if the opportunity arrives, you just step into it and not let that hold me back. That thought, that feeling that I don't fit anywhere and that I don't place. And that's been a monstrous thought in my life. Monster. That is one big root someplace, and so I just need to start planting that, I am all things and I do have a choice. I can step into an opportunity if this happens, I do not close myself off to letting things in my life with that thought, that direction. That's all I wanted to,
Well, see, that's very good, because What you did was you beat yourself up. Okay, and we've been taught that at a young age, how to beat ourselves up. I beat myself up for many, many moons, due to the way I was brought up. And I too suffered with, feeling the way you felt, Pam, because you do. And that is something that feeling right there that you feel, next time it comes up, you need to actually grab it and take it to the trash immediately and throw it in there and replace it with, I'm worthy and I'm going to do this. Because like I said, we're cleaning out our self-worth, where our self-worth and our self-esteem live in our body. Okay. And we're removing all the weak links, and I'm gonna call them weak links, and we're putting new foundation down. And the foundation is the knowledge, the truth, understanding, you know, and when you get them rooted in there, you'll be able to stand really tall, because these little voices that come up saying you're not good enough and all of that will not have no space there to grow anymore, you know. And it's going to take a little time to get there. You know, all of this didn't happen overnight. This is something that was inbred in us, you know, through brainwashing, through the actions of other people. So it's going to take a little while to get out of it. But only you can love yourself. And when you truly, truly love yourself and anchor that love in there and set those columns up, however you want to see your room of your self-worth, you know, set big old boulders up there, that columns that can hold like 20,000 tons on top of them, you know. Once you build that, it can never be taken away from you unless you take it away from yourself, because nobody controls your emotions other than you. And that's the key. That's your freedom. You know, you're the one that's choosing to get mad. You're the one that's choosing to stay in the bed all day because you don't feel good. You're the one that's doing this to yourself. Nobody else is doing it to you. If you don't feel like you have a job or creating, then go create it. Tell yourself, I'm a creator. I'm going to go out and create things. I am worthy of all things. And guess what? You have much to bring to the table. You know, you do. You have much to bring to the table, and you will find out the more you clean house, you'll find out what you can bring to the table. You know, and it will come over you to talk to the people about it. You could become a great teacher. Who knows? You know, you won't know until you do the work, and then it'll just start happening, and then you'll go, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, you know. And then you can say to yourself too, look, you'll have your shadow self say, oh no, you can't do that. You know, and you'll have to fight with yourself, you know, until you say, yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Like, if you close the door and say that can't happen, guess what? It's not gonna happen.
That's right, because you shut the door. And the spirit opened the door, but you were like, I'm not doing that. Because it's all you. You have the choice. And it does not mean that things won't happen to you. Now, there's a fine line, you know. You're still going to have people that might not like you, you know, that are going to say things bad about you or try to steer other people away from you. Guess what? That's okay. You don't have to hold that judgment against them. Hold that understanding of where they're at and say, oh, I've been there. I know what that is, you know, and pray for them, you know, and be okay with it, because guess what? They're learning just like we had to learn. You know, life is a learn. We are in school learning. So go out and prosper, you know. Go out and learn things. Get out in nature and learn the plants. Get out and do stuff that makes you feel good. When you find out that what really truly makes you feel good, that's when you bring in happiness and contentment. And that's where you're filling up your cup. Now, because you want to fill your cup up. We don't want to empty it anymore to what we've been emptying it with distractions and all of this and keeping us weak because it's taking our energy from us. Well, take the distractions out, and guess what? When you take the distractions out, you'll be able to see your path a little bit clearer. And Sherry, do you have anything to say? Oh, I see your hand now. Sorry.
No, I had it up, but I know you were still talking. No, so you touched on quite a bit of stuff. I remember being upset with myself about things that happened to me, choosing wrong relationships. I remember saying I would never be in that kind of relationship growing up, seeing a bad relationship, and then being in it. And then at one point I was mad at myself, but then it turned into like, why? Instead of anger, it was more like, okay, well, why did I do that? Then I had trust, like how to learn to trust myself again. So it was, because I was like, okay, if I just keep choosing bad relationships, there's something wrong with me. That whole blame game. It was blaming myself. I was being my own frenemy, right? But then I just did some soul searching, and I said, well, I have to give myself some space and actually figure this out. And going back to stuff in the past that I wasn't able to control when I was a child, situations around me or things that were done to me, I found what's been helpful a lot, and this could be helpful, Elizabeth, is detachment. Because there's a power to our story, but it's like, why, like I wouldn't always want to share my story, and then I would have some people that would share their story and I would be like, oh, whoa, how could they even talk about such a thing? And then I said, well, then I realized, well, they're not doing it to be a martyr. So, but then there are other people that do all the time, that will share it and they'll use their story as a crutch to be in victim mode. So I found detachment to be the best, and to be able to tell the story without being so connected to that. Instead, it's like you're watching a movie and you're saying what's happening in a movie or a book that you read. And even though it is you and something you have experienced, we don't have to let it become like it eat us away. So it's definitely, growing and ebbs and flows, but detachment, I thought the Buddhists were crazy in a way. I love them, but I thought it was crazy in a way when they say, oh, detachment. I go, can't be detached from your kids. Well, now that they're a teenager, maybe, but I was like, you can't detach from everything, but I can see where they're coming from now, where they, attachment causes suffering. If we're so attached to it that we can't let, or it's affecting us functioning, then I could see it's been helpful. It takes time and it's a lot of self-evaluation.
Yeah, which is self-love, right?
Mhm.
And that's true, like self-detaching. Okay, we'll hit on that for a few minutes. The monks are great examples because they do show us how we can detach, okay, from our emotional self. Now they're not saying not to address those emotions, because they do address those emotions. They don't just detach it and put it on a shelf somewhere. They look at it too and address it. But The detachment is when you realize that it's a language coming through you, okay? And so you do not have to have the feelings that come along with the story. So you can detach the feelings off of the story and be able to tell the story without becoming emotionally involved in it, even though you are the star of the story. Because it's a language. And emotions, I think I told this at the starting of our lessons in the self-love is emotions are the storyline, and there are captive. That's what keeps us in captivity. They keep us held down. But it's a language that's coming through us, okay? And until we realize that it's a language where we can detach from how it makes us feel emotionally, then you're going to always be held captive in all that until you take that detachment, you know, and or that understanding is a better way. The understanding that you do not have to bring in the emotional feeling of it with the story. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think everybody has had a chance to talk. So Robbie, would you like to say the prayer? And then we have another small little video that Robbie's gonna play, which is the forgiveness prayer, which is very important because our story is about learning how to forgive ourselves and others and understand what forgiveness is, because that is your key to freedom. And I love each and every one of you, and we'll see you next week. Next week's is exciting because guess what next week is, y'all? We will have been done the new self-love for 1 year next week. It's our anniversary. We'll be 1 day from our anniversary. It doesn't seem like we've been doing it for a whole year. So yes, we should all bring a cupcake and eat it to class. You should go buy a cupcake and bring it to class and we'll celebrate. All right, Robbie.
Thank you, Shahwin. All right, I'll pray and then play this song. Father Sky, Mother Earth, all our ancestors, all our relatives, we call upon you at this time and we thank you. We thank you so very much for allowing us to be part of this most sacred circle. We thank you for the wisdom bestowed upon us. We thank you for the teachings you convey through our blessed teacher, Shahwin, and we are grateful. We ask, Creator Most High, that you please place it upon our hearts to embrace forgiveness. Help us to forgive ourselves. Help us to forgive ourselves for thinking towards situations in ways that aren't pure and upright. Help guide us, help instruct us, and help us to have a moment of space before we react, where you allow us to see that this is our choice, that the emotions we deal and place and put into the collective is our choice. Help those emotions to be emotions of love and gratitude and compassion and kindness. Help us to be that light and help us to encourage our other brothers and sisters to shine brightly as well. We ask, Creator Most High, that you please watch over each and every one of us throughout this week. Please protect us and guide us and help us to walk in a way that is pleasing in your sight. We love you and we thank you. Aho.
Everybody have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week after the song. Much love.
right. See everyone next week.